What the hell? Oh, what is going on now? Seems as though maybe we're live at this point. So now we should be okay. So I think now we're live for the 4-Wide Racing Cup Series on lap number 21. Very much apologetic for some of the technical issues we've had so far here tonight. I mean, trying to get things live, but I guess some of the technical issues had pushed us out, or at least did not enable us to go live just yet. But for now, on the edge of lap number 21 and lap number 22, Chris Massey currently leads your field over Nicholas Zuzzuti, who won the race last week at New Hampshire at the Magic Mile. Donald Williams currently lines up your top 3. Tyler Murray will be 4th. Christopher Bishop will line up the top 5 as their contact behind. That was the 12 of Jaden Gimbel and the 4 of Kyle Benson. They seem to go almost around Benson, almost with significant damage to his race car. That could have easily sent him out of it. Got loose, was able to catch it in time. And him and Gimbel survived for now. But that could have been large as another line was trying to form. That's the 86 of Tristan Bailey trying to make something happen on the top with help from pole sitter Austin Reedy. And that could have been very big. Take a look at the replay there between Kyle Benson and the 12 of Jaden Gimbel. This was right at the top of turn 2. You see him right there, push him 86, just sent him a little bit loose. Snaked him right into the 12 of Gimbel. And from there, that did not necessarily work. As now Benson will fall out of the midst of this top 10 at least. And now we'll have to look over for what will be the next position out behind. He'll step in behind Craig Lautensager for the time being. And he'll hang in over as top line may start to form. You see Brad Herman up there trying to make something work. He has help barely from Austin Reedy, but Reedy will try to split the middle to make things happen up to the middle and maybe get some positions. It does inevitably slow these cars down. So for the most part, the side drafting can prove either very well for you or very negatively for you, as there's another pass with the side draft. That is what looks to be Christopher Bishop getting put under pressure by Andrew Sidney, who's trying to make the side draft work, but he does not have the help up top, and top 4 have broken away just barely. So at this moment, we've had about 2 cars out of the 20-car field out of this one, which includes Michael E. York in the 48, the 89 of Cole Martin, who led this race for a good portion before leaving early. He's about 5 laps down, so that slid the 83 of Chris Massey to the race lead, and Nicholas Zuzzuti, who started on the outside of row 1, to follow with him. So at this point, you continue to ride through all single file within the top 7 or so before you get to the first battle side by side. And Massey continues to lead this field. And on our first yellow, in the opening laps of this race, we did see a lot of drivers go down pit road, which at this point did include practically everybody in the field that they pitted around the time we had, I believe, the second yellow flag of the evening. Or at least some drivers managed to pit, so it put them a little bit further back in the field, set them single file, so they have been on the fuel tank a little bit larger than with the gas in their car, as opposed to some of the drivers behind, or at least in front of them. The leaders mostly did not pit, but everyone near the rear of this field, especially with this 5-car train, starting with the 9 of Brandon Gillis, they did go down pit road under the first yellow flag. So they do have a little more fuel. Maybe they're electing to save a little bit more and stretch it. We've gone green ever since. So apart from our first yellow flag, we have been green flag racing. And that has been good for the moment for them. Maybe they could use the advantage in terms of that fuel strategy. As the rest of the pack, though, very far up ahead. Maybe that could be the big downside to being in that pack, saving fuel all the way in the rear, is that you lose a lot of time to the guys up here in the front. And even then could give an equalized strategy, even for the guys up front. Even if they pit a little bit earlier, it could still help them once they cycle around to the front of the pack once more. So almost contact there. A couple drivers snaking their way through the bottom, but so far no moves back up top. We've seen a lot of crazy strategies to move up the racetrack and take over the lead. We've had a couple of lead changes already to start this race. Hang around on board with Nicholas Vizzuti as we head off of turn 2. And now we'll start our fuel strategy at lap number 27. As you see, Nicholas Vizzuti and everybody within this top pack, they decide to pit here and end up with a fuel strategy. And that will send Andrew Sidney to the front. And he'll be the only one left to pit, as everybody else behind will take their look down at fuel strategy. As they'll try to look around, you see the 14 of Roman Long edging out. There's a 75 of Vizzuti. He's already out of pit road, and they will make their way out. So Vizzuti gaining time on pit road with Tyler Murray to follow. Almost contact between them as Murray almost goes around, and he ends up getting reared by the 14 of Roman Long and goes spinning at the apron. I think there's more crashing up ahead. Even more, the 12 of Jaden Gimbel spinning down the track. Well, this is chaotic as now Gimbel goes around at the entrance of turn 1. Caution flag waves for the second time tonight. But what has happened there between the leaders? And it all started with Tyler Murray, who went around. And that was exiting pit road. We'll try to see what happened here as they were exiting pit road. You see Murray with a good jump, and I think... Well, I'm not sure right there. And then you see him swerving back and then ends up going around as a result. And you see even more contact up the road. There was Jaden Gimbel, who ended up, I think, getting hit by one of the drivers behind. He also got a piece of contact. I think that was the 11 of Austin Reedy, who was trying to slow up as they were checking up for the wreck. Man, that was not easy for Gimbel. And then you see him trying to go around there. Did not help his case whatsoever. We see Tyler Murray will try to look at the cockpit, and we'll see exactly what happened. This was with him behind Vizzuti out of pit road. I think there swerved out to make sure he didn't get into Vizzuti, and then tried to swerve back, put in the gas to make up that time that he lost. And then ended up on the worst part of it all. He ends up still with damage. I don't think he's taken any sort of repairs. That will allow, though, Andrew Sidney, who took the race lead by not pitting. He did end up pitting as well. So he ends up back to the front as a result. And now we are under our second yellow of the evening on lap number 29. So for now, I think everybody has nailed the pitch strategy about halfway through. There's Sidney now edging back. I think Herman, Tristan Bailey in the 86. I think Roman Long also as well. They will try to top off on field this time. So you see Tyler Warner. There's Jaden Gimbel, who got some of that damage on that wreck. Tyler Murray now going to get his repairs. All of these guys down pit road to get some extra service. Also to top off a little more as well. Which will leave Nicholas Vizzuti back to the race lead. We'll try to see exactly what happens as he will be alongside Brandon Gillis to support. We'll have our second yellow bring the field back into the clutches of the iRacing official pace car. We'll take a moment and we'll step away as you're watching the 4 Wide Racing Cup Series live from the Talladega Super Speedway. Don't miss anything. You're watching it right here on MaxSpeedTV.
We got big time problems with that motor, buddy. Hey, just between you and me, the idea is to avoid the other cars. Congratulations! You just set the sport back 30 years with that move. That move will put you in the Hall of Shame. You keep doing stuff like that and we're going to lose our sponsor. Looks like that's it for us today. Now I know why you got canned by your old team. It's over. We can't fix that damage. Looks like your car is toast. You'll need a tow back to pit lane. Press and hold your reset button and we'll come and get you.
Back live from the virtual Talladega Super Speedway in the 4 Wide Racing Cup Series in their 7th round. Right here on MaxSpeedTV, we currently watch the leaders head back behind the iRacing official pace car. They had just gone over their second yellow of the evening involving Jaden Gimbel and league owner Tyler Murray as they were stepping out of pit road on a green flag strategy around lap number 28. We have stepped behind the iRacing pace car and we will already have our 1 to green signal, so the lights are out. And we'll have the drivers who started in the front of this field flip-flopped once again. Nicholas Vizzuti will lead us back to green, along with Austin Reedy, who started on pole tonight. Kyle Benson will be behind them in third, along with Christopher Bishop in the 42 machine. He'll line up the second row with Donna Williams, Ricky Rosner, Pete Bruni, Brad Herman, Roman Long, and Tristan Bailey to line up your top 10 for the moment. Glad to have you join us. We've had some technical issues to start this one. However, we are back on track and ready to bring you the rest of this event. We had 20 drivers roll off to the green flag. We've already lost about 2. And that was Cole Martin and Michael York, who were at once in this race at the front of the field. They ended up in the garage. Unfortunate to see them out of this one early. But we'll step back to racing at almost about the halfway mark of this race. We're still about, I'd say, 14 laps from that moment. Probably about lap number 45 to 48. We'll see ourselves near the, or at least 47 will be the halfway mark. And still a long way to go till lap number 94. And we had some pitch strategy to line up with it, but I think everybody else in this field should be on equal footing. And we'll have everybody down pit road. So fuel shouldn't be an issue here for the next fuel stint. In about 20 to 25 laps, maybe even 30 if you're able to stretch it, and we'll see exactly what happens. Field's in the hands of Nicholas Vizzuti. Pace car will make its way down a pit road, and the Ford Mustang and the Chevrolet Camaro will edge back down the long tri-oval here at Talladega, and we'll be back on the gas, back up the gears, and back to green flag racing. Vizzuti up front with Reedy behind. He'll get an early start, and we're back under green as they ship back to turn 1. Top 3 at a breakaway. Benson with a decent start. They'll line up all single file together. They'll step back into turn number 1 with that headway. Bishop leading the charge, though, behind them in the second pack. They will try to make something happen of a draft of their own. But for now, everybody's separated as we step out of turn number 2. Here's a look from Pete Bruni in the 08. He also was near the rear of the field. We talked about him a little bit earlier where he was in a 5-car train all by himself to open this race. But ever since then, that caution brought everybody back up to speed, everybody back together, and that allowed Pete Bruni to get back in this fight, although he is up to the top of the track, losing positions. Think he's letting everybody by for the moment, but we had a change for position. Help up top gave Austin Reedy the race lead, so he'll step in front of Vizzuti. You see, there goes the 86 of Tristan Bailey and the 85 of Brad Herman. They're also making moves up top. They're also making a tandem. Here's Tyler Murray also to help. He got his faster pair after going around to bring out the second yellow. He will try to help Benson for the time being. And they're all separated now as they head out of turn 2. This is wildly different racing from what we saw in iRacing before this build in the Cup Series, you were able to stay within a large pack, everybody together. Here comes Vizuti with help. He'll move right across the 86's nose, clear himself around to the front. And now he'll try to make the side draft happen to step just the nose out to the 11 and take back the race lead, as Austin Reedy seems as though he's had enough of this. He may head down pit road as a result. Not sure exactly why, but he'll be hard on the brakes down at pit road. Maybe some damage to fix. Maybe something happened, but now Austin Reedy in the midst of this race, he is now falling back down pit road. He may go at least one lap down here as they're 3 wide for position behind them. And almost had it there. Brad Herman getting put all the way by himself. No help, so he'll line up to the top side and try to reset. Maybe find himself back into the draft. There's Andrew Sidney in the midst of this one as well. He's also trying to make something work down the middle with help to Craig Lonsarger, Kyle Benson, and the 86 of Tristan Bailey. Now we're starting to see that outside form a line. We only saw this in the opening laps of this race before we had our first yellow flag. But ever since then, it's been mostly single file. Some drivers have tried the 2-wide strategy, but it really has never worked. Here's the third line now in development. Andrew Sidney may be looking at the side draft, but it has not been a run big enough to make it happen. So he'll tuck back in, and they'll stay just about single file. As you ride on board with the driver of the 98, and Andrew Sidney has been making things happen for the time being, and now giving that large push to the 13 and Craig Lonsarger now, and he'll end up with a run to the outside. Here comes Roman Long now with a move. He also slips outside, and he's going to make a move as well back to turn 3. See them tightly trying to keep themselves composed. Massey will also maybe flirt up there to give some sort of that help. And this entire build, the way the Super Speedway package has been developed for the Cup Series cars ever since yesterday when iRacing officially released their build and updated these physics, it really changed the way the racing happened, and really has changed the way drivers start to plan their moves. Because when you, in the previous build, at least for the most part, you can go up there, have a couple drivers help you. The side draft wasn't as powerful. However, if you got enough drivers up there with you to challenge, you could easily get large ones and catch up to the front of the field via the high side and make moves at the inside, and would mostly check up due to them being so packed together. But ever since the new build, it has really forced drivers to plan differently. It has forced them to think differently about what moves they make, because if you make this move, it could easily put you in the wrong place. You could lose some mile per hour, and then all of a sudden you could be all the way back in the field, much like Pete Bruni and Ricky Rosner are doing right now. They're at the tail end. You could possibly lose the draft, and then you have to hit the reset button and try all over again. And that could happen to you from the race lead. We saw it with Brad Herman when he looked up to the top, trying to make something happen. He was all by himself, got put in the sucker hole, and the plan did not come to fruition, as now he's maybe trying a different plan to the bottom side with help, as now the 86 very loose on the track, gonna collect Lonsarger as he got a bad push down the back straightaway. Sidney involved, Pete Bruni involved, Herman spinning down the track, and our second or third caution comes out now at lap number 37, not too far out from our first. Well, that was harmful for the drivers there. Bailey went around with damage as he got a push in the back, and it unsettled the car. We saw it with Kyle Benson earlier when he got into Jaden Gimbel. And now again, we set beneath the yellow flag. We'll try to take a look at where this began. It started with a push from the 83 of Chris Massey to the back of the 86. Not sure whether it was a big push per se. I think right here, right about there was the push. Tagged the 86 just a little bit, got him squirrely. He got into the 13, was swivering around the track. You see Massey comes down into both Benson and Herman, collects them both. Pete Bruni also steps in it as well. He gets involved as they were spinning down the back straightaway there. You see Sidney spinning down. Brad Herman, who looked to be clear from the wreck with Kyle Benson, they also got collected. You see them tagged to the bottom here, trying to clear as much as they can, but then gets right into the 85 and the 4. And Benson with a huge hit to the inside wall. I think luckily for most of these drivers, they do have the fast repair given to them. So they should be okay. As there's Benson now, and Vizuti will have to slow all the way down and line up behind the iRacing official pace car. It seems as though consensus will be everyone down pit road. So for now, we'll have everybody go down, get their service. And it will be Vazzuti at the head of this field. He'll bring everybody down. There goes the 96 of Donald Williams. Seems as though he might have overshot the pit box. There goes everybody else down pit road as well. There's Massey. There's the 86 of Tristan Bailey. Quick stop for Donald Williams, though. He will step out first. Seems as though Vazzuti will be second. Tyler Murray, though, will take second away from Vazzuti as Roman Long also got the advantage. So now they will take the position away, and Vazzuti will be in a different position from now. That is a big shakeup. Donald Williams, I think, only taking fuel that run, did not elect tires. And now he will be the driver to lead us back to the green flag. Here what should be, I believe, lap number 41 if we stay under yellow. So our third caution comes out for the moment. And around the halfway mark, since we are almost there, we'll take a look at our race summary right now, almost at the halfway mark of this race. Currently, 56 laps remain in this event. We've had 3 cautions now, with a total of 2 caution laps led. And we currently have 12 lead changes. We had a lot of them to open this race. There hasn't been as many since, but this will technically count as a lead change down pit road. Most of them were done on track within the first 10 laps, and we saw some fantastic racing there. There were about 3-4 wide in a large pack. I don't think anybody really was left out there. So now we'll lay under pace speed for the moment. And Tyler Murray, driver who had poor luck to end the race at New Hampshire, was in contention to win the race, but cautions kept coming out. And then in a battle with one of the leaders, got collected in an incident, which sent him into the inside wall. Pretty much hurt his race from then on out. He was about a handful of laps down, went back on track, and ended up finishing the race. But for Murray, this is practically his best shot at winning right now. He has done well at a lot of the other tracks. He did perform well at Daytona as well, so he definitely does have that super speedway capability. And in fact, he won the 4Y Racing Truck Series race last night here in a dramatic finish to the start-finish line, and he took a checkered flag there. So Murray definitely knows a good amount about super speedway racing, and for now he's placed himself in the right direction and maybe a step forward here, as we may have lights out on the pace car this time by, and indeed we do. So we'll double them up. Murray will be in the outside of row number 1, followed by Donald Williams on the inside, who will lead them off to the green flag. Nicholas Vazzuti will be in the inside of row 2, with Roman Long to be on the outside. Chris Massey and Christopher Bishop line up the top 6. Cody Ivey, Kyle Benson, Brandon Gillis, and Pete Bruni will line up the rest of the top 10. Everybody within the top 17 are all under the lead lap, and it seems as though since Austin Reedy went down pit road, he has elected to step into the garage, and he is out of this race. So very unfortunate for the pole sitter here tonight, and the driver who started this race off at the front will not have a chance to compete in this race anymore. Hopefully he'll be okay in whatever he may have to do. We saw the same sort of situation with Jake Roel, and we thought it was a problem, but it seemed as though he had another commitment, stepped out of the race in order to fulfill that commitment that he had. So same sort of situation maybe here for Austin Reedy, and we'll maybe find out later in this event. So everybody's going to be doubled up here. Well, interesting situation here is about 3 Chevrolet Camaros lined up the first 3 rows on the top, and 2 Ford Mustangs lead the inside on the bottom. It could have been 3 straight, and it would have also followed the same format. Cody Ivey, though, has been split away from the other Ford Mustangs with the Chevrolet Camaro of Chris Massey. And a lot of them getting their faster pairs, getting clean race cars on the track. We'll be set to go back green in just a handful of moments. So very slow around the Talladega Super Speedway. However, iRacing has done a job of limiting the amount of time you spend under yellow here at these large tracks. Tracks over 2 miles, which include Michigan Auto Club, Daytona, and obviously here at Talladega. When the yellow comes out, give a couple of laps. However, don't necessarily lengthen the time. because the track is so large. And speaking of pace car, it is off to the left, down to the safety of pit road. Early start for the 96 of Donna Williams, and we are back under green from Talladega. You see a big shove now to the inside. Murray not enough to get any help to separate himself around. He'll try maybe a side draft, stick in with the guys up front, and Vizzuti and Massey will slip themselves by to the inside. Murray will end up finding that space, and he'll now end up to the bottom, and everybody back single file as they step out of turn 2. And you're riding on board with Donna Williams for the moment. You can see the air bubble pushing it away from the 75 Vizzuti. Meanwhile, they have created a tandem up front, and they seem to spread themselves away from the field as now Murray has been with that help. Very squirrely, though, with a push from Roman Long up top, and he will now settle back to the inside as he almost had a moment there, almost easily could have gone around, and now they'll get a very big run off turn 2 to try and catch up. Here they come to the outside, now all by himself. Murray trying the slide job, well, he's not the slide job, the side draft rather, with help from the 83 of Massey now to the inside. And Murray with a fantastic move will set him back to second. Watch Cody Ivey, though, in the 81. He has looked back in this fight as well. Can't look away from the drivers now, setting in the top 5. Kyle Benson also back in this one as well. Brandon Gillis and Christopher Bishop to line up the rest of the guys here in at least the top 9 as they're up front. The contact, though, between the 83 and the 81. They'll save it for the moment. Almost another disastrous move up the middle of the racetrack. And Ivey with contact with the 83 of Massey. They're able to save it at lap 43. That could have been our 4th yellow of the evening. And the problem there will be they'll have to crawl themselves back up because they have put themselves at a lot of distance here between themselves and the rest of the leaders as they start to pull away slightly. Here comes Tyler Murray now, maybe looking for some of that help. But at the moment, it has not come to fruition whatsoever. Vizzuti, Benson, and Gillis to follow the top 5 at this point, as everybody within the top 7 will look behind. As Chris Massey laid back, he has help from the 86 of Tristan Bailey. You see Bishop now all by himself. There's Brad Herman, Jaden Gibble. They were near the rear of the field at this point on this restart, but they were able to scrawl their way back. So now they have formed a line of their own and possibly could become the rest of the strategy. These drivers do have to pit at least one more time before this race is all said and done. So strategy is still a factor to how this race will play out. We're still not just down to racing yet. And we'll probably have to see drivers use those mind games down pit road in order to gain that position. And maybe we might see the same sort of situation we saw at Daytona, where for the most part field strategy did come into play in the final 15 laps of this race. How about a crossover, though, by Tyler Murray? Help with Nicholas Vizzuti to make it happen, and Tyler Murray shuffles to the race lead on lap number 45. And a move to separate himself amongst all others. Vizzuti now looks to help. And it seems as though Donna Williams will have to shuffle in. They are 3 wide for position. Watch the 83 of Massey now splitting the middle. Saw that help between himself and Brad Herman. They're also now ending up in this fight. And they almost split 3 wide again. Almost very much contact. And could have been another big wreck. We've seen some of the bad pushes resulting in cars getting very squirrely and large wrecks to end this one. But so far, it seems to stay clean. Almost a look to the outside. Trying to get some of that air. And they are still trying to make a formidable high line, which has not come into effect just yet. As now Benson and Vizzuti will try to aim back the 2 Ford Mustangs, trying to catch up to the Chevrolet Camaro up front. And we did talk about these 3 in the top 3 at New Hampshire last week on the first short track race of the season. And it was Murray competing for the win. Vizzuti, one of the strongest cars. He had to battle with Kyle Benson, as a matter of fact, in order to try and take away that win. Benson has been the master of consistent finishes, and that's what allowed him to take over the point seed. 240 points between himself throughout this season. 7 points, though, only ahead of the 33 of Tyler Warner, who currently sits right now in this top 8. So Benson, again, looking forward strong to another consistent finish. Vizzuti coming off of that win in New Hampshire, which was his first win of the season. And Tyler Murray still looking for his first in 2021. They'll look to the back straightaway. Everybody is single file. No change for position. You see Cody Ivey may be under pressure from Roman Long, but that didn't seem to work. Tyler Warner did try to make a move up top. He found enough space at the bottom as he got shuffled out in time. And the side drop not as effective. You see a little bit up the road behind them. Chris Massey has been looking up top, but to no avail. He'll have to fall back through this field. That has really changed the way these super speedway races have been handling, because you can even have the help up top and still lose all that ground to the drivers all the way in the bottom side because of that preferred line. As prior, you can basically just make packs all the way back to the end of the field, 2x2, maybe 3x3 if you can hold it. And as soon as you get a large run off the corner, you can easily group up with a couple cars, maybe 1, 2, 3, and make things work. It seems as though now you may have to need more strength in numbers, and also coupled with the side draft to make things inevitably work to take over leads, or maybe try the crossover move that Tyler Murray did a little bit earlier tonight. As now we cross the official halfway mark of this race, lap number 48 of 94. We're still a long ways away from the end of this event, and we may also have to see pit stops. And we did take a look at it when Vizzuti had gone down. We were riding on board with him when they did go down pit road. So what's the good news there for everybody in the field, that they were making that strategy? Caution came out as soon as they were exiting, though, and that involved the driver who's currently leading this race, the driver of the 8 machine. Take a look at Cody Ivey currently sitting in the 4th spot as he ride beneath or behind his Ford Mustang. Roman Long and Christopher Bishop going side by side behind them. Cody Ivey, along with Roman Long, haven't had the best start to this 2021 season. They have practically struggled throughout a lot of the events in this season so far. They haven't had a chance necessarily to show their skills, show their strength. And for now, this could be the changer for them as they both sit within the top 5. As Long will get a large run, maybe look up top. He'll flirt up there in that second groove and not going to stick it for the moment. No help up there. Jaden Gimbel will have to file in and give some sort of that push. And that also comes to another topic of conversation when you step into super speedway racing, as we had crossed the line for lap number 50, now down the back straightaway. It's all about the people you're willing to work with. Who are you trustworthy of? We see a lot of drivers that are within teams. They end up in strategy with one another. They end up pushing one another. They end up in packs with one another. They pretty much help each other on the track, and that seems to be the most obvious direct way of communication. It's work with your teammates, and pretty much you're in communication, whether it be through Discord, TeamSpeak, whatever voice chat you guys have between the team, and then from there on out, the communications will be clear, and each of the drivers in that team will work together in order to make things happen. But the problem stands with drivers that may be separated from their teammates, or drivers that don't necessarily have a team. Maybe they're the only one representing their team, and they pretty much have to experiment. And that also goes for people with teammates. Maybe you don't end up seeing your teammate throughout this race. Maybe that strategy, working with the teammates, won't be as successful, and then at the moment you have to work with the drivers behind you, the drivers around you, and at that point you have to either work on making them trust you or trusting them in the process to push you, because at the end of this race, if it comes down to multiple packs, if it comes down to side-by-side racing, the help will be the best way around. We'll probably see side draft come into play, maybe a one-on-one pass to the driver up front, and we've seen it before. We can see it happen again so far in this event. However, it'll probably be well to have some sort of help behind you in order to give that push and make things happen. So when you're in the midst of this field, it is imperative to start thinking about how you will do in terms of working with the people around you and making sure you can get the best run possible, especially when it steps to the checkered flag. And speaking of stepping out, we saw one driver step out, and that was the 75 of Vizzuti. Had a look to the outside, but really had nothing to go up to confirm there. So he will now step back. The space will help in, as Jaden Gimbel has now looked up top. Tyler Warner has also been doing the same, trying to execute that side draft, but comparing the fact that they have no help, it has also really forced them to think differently as well. And they're now falling to the midst of this field. You see Warner and Gimbal all the way up top near the rear of the screen there, or the top of the screen. And you can exactly see where they stand as opposed to the rest of the field and how much time they are losing, as pretty much everybody within this first pack to the top 14 of Craig Lonsauger, they are all within the draft. But then you have to look back to a two-car tandem. This is 15th and 16th. Ricky Rosner and Pete Bruni. And then Andrew Sidney, who's practically all by himself, pitted 14 laps ago, was once in the lead by staying out before the yellow flag came out. And speaking of which, he will be the first driver to be put one lap down actively on the racetrack. Other drivers who have gone to the garage, rather, they are now multiple laps down, but not necessarily on track. So this will be the first pass to a lapped car tonight. Lap traffic not necessarily playing a large factor. We also haven't gotten into the pit strategy just yet, so at least drivers working around traffic may not be the biggest concern, especially in difference of speed, but we'll just have to see. They've got about 16 laps on their stint since the yellow flag dropped, so it has been a fairly long while. However, we've looked to about lap 25 to 28. That's usually been the segment or the signal for a lot of drivers to go down pit road. And here's a battle for the lead. Nicholas Vizzuti tried the side draft for the quarter panel of the 8 machine. He's all by himself on the second groove of the racetrack, and to no success right now. Benson will ease into second, slip into the spot that was gained, and now Vizzuti will have to try and work up top. Maybe Gimbal and Warner can give him some help, but nobody else has elected to go up with him. You see the 12 and the 33 maybe trying to pick him up. Actually, they'll put him in the sucker hole. They'll put him 3 wide. That's on the 3 wide for position where Massey sits on the bottom. And almost in, they'll stay single file for the time being. Now Benson will slip in as second, as Vizzuti had worked all the way to the back. He found some space to the bottom side of the track, and now he'll be all by himself. Maybe use a shuffle now again for position. Here's Roman Long going to shuffle his way through, so he gets by the 81 of Cody Ivy. And now Ivy all by himself as they're riding on board with a 14 machine. Contact. Now here, look, as you're riding on board for the time being. They'll step in a single file once again. Lap number 56. Maybe a move from Chris Massey as the top 5 look to have spread themselves apart. But here's a big shove by the 14 of Roman Long to the 4 machine. Seems like they won't make it work. That push will come to nothing as the airbowl will separate them once again. Now, we may have to look at about 10 laps or so before we actually get drivers down pit road. We saw it the first time around, and hopefully it will not result in another caution involving drivers who are already getting out of pit road, getting loose, and getting into contact with one another. That's exactly what caused our yellow on about lap number 28, when we had basically everybody in the front pack of the field, and we saw a differing strategy. We saw only one driver stay out, and it was Andrew Sidney, who was all by himself with no help, maybe aiming at a different strategy. But everybody else in the single file group, they all went down pit road instantaneously together. So it was not necessarily a conversation as to whether people were going to split the strategy down pit road. It was just a matter of when they were all going to go down, and it seemed as though lap 28 was that time before they had successful pit stops. They were starting to get out. Murray was behind Vizzuti, who was supposed to take over net P1 when they cycled around, but then all of a sudden Murray had spun around, got into contact. Jaden Gimbal also got collected in it. Austin Reedy had some damage as well, so that basically put them in trouble. Gimbal spun right back onto the racing surface, and that's exactly what the officials deemed was dangerous, ruled the yellow flag as a result. And that was really our only meeting with a full strategy run. We were probably aiming to look at a cycle, but we didn't end up seeing that whatsoever, as you see Vizzuti in the 75 had tried another side drafting move and has forced drivers to really start to ponder what they're going to do. It's not as easy to make moves up top as it was before, so you really have to force your way in. You really have to pick and choose where you will be. and everybody maintaining single file. And that's one of the things that was discussed when iRacing released this season build for the Super Speedway package. There was a lot of people who found interest in it, found support in it, but there were also a lot of people who found hate in it, or dislike rather, and they didn't really find it too interesting or too diverse to be running like this. But has proven, Malik Ray, one of iRacing's best oval super speedway racers, one of the more aggressive ones on the iRacing service in the Coca-Cola eNASCAR series. He also praised iRacing for their switch to the system and enabling that side draft system. And for now, there are 2 drivers, maybe 3, 4 up top. Tyler Warner, help from Jaden Gimbel. They have been some of the pioneers at the top side of the racetrack. Christopher Bishop also trying to move along with Vizzuti, but they had enough space and no success, so they ended up back right to the yellow line, which is where everybody wants to stick around. We cross the line for lap number 60. 34 laps to go here from the Talladega Super Speedway, and for now, Tyler Murray currently leads the way ahead of Kyle Benson. And for now, the 8 of Tyler Murray, he's led 17 laps since the start of this race. He's done a fair job of maintaining himself up there. The air bubble, along with prevention of any moves behind him, has kept him in it. We talked about it a little bit earlier. We mentioned it, that he was the winner last night of the 4Wide Racing Truck Series right here at Talladega. Obviously a different package, different vehicles nonetheless, but even then, Tyler Murray, some of that super speedway strength showed throughout last night. It showed at the season opener in this series at Daytona. Remember, he was one of the competitors to be aggressive up front and take away the race lead. The only problem was he was involved in an incident in the middle of the race, and that set him out of competition. He was practically put on the lead lap right in front of the actual race leaders at the time, so he was at the verge of being put a lap down in the final 5 laps of the race, and that enabled Tyler Werner to stick behind and win the race. But for Tyler Murray, this could be the change of pace for the 8 machine and possibly be able to capture his first victory. He has been on a road to capturing the checkered flag in 2021 for a handful of races. He's done a job of getting very close, but it has not been an execution effort yet. And either bad luck or certain situations has kept him out of being there at the end. And for now, he controls this race at lap number 61. Now crossing to lap number 62. We're starting to edge out as everybody within the top 15 still maintaining a group, and there have been no looks to the top side just yet. We saw a lot of the aggressive driving in the first 5 to 10 laps, and I'm not sure whether that was just an experimentation look to see exactly how the package worked. They did provide some practice, some testing before yesterday when the build did come out, so they did have some sort of intel on how this racing was going to work, and I think for now, they're maybe just edging over into the next fuel run, which should happen in the next few laps or so. And we haven't seen any drivers signal to pit in just yet. So maybe we'll have everybody behind Tyler Murray, including the race leader, to go down pit road within the next handful of laps. We saw it the last time by. It was about 27 laps before they actually all went down pit road. We're already at the 25 lap mark on everybody's stint. So at this point, we're probably going to eye our way down. And maybe nobody will look to the outside as they want the perfect line, perfect direction straight into pit lane. We may see some paddles for position down pit road. We have seen some drivers outbrake another, maybe lock the brakes a little bit in an attempt to get down at pit speed and try to be on the brakes as hard as they could to gain position, and that technically does count. No penalties will be issued for passes like that. It technically is free game. So we'll just have to see. We saw battles for position off of pit road. We can definitely see it happen once again as nobody looks this time by. We stay everybody behind Tyler Murray. Nicholas Vizzuti, who was up at the front of this field and started on the front row alongside Austin Reedy. He currently sits in the 10th spot. He has led a couple laps of his own, double digits as a matter of fact, 14 laps led. But ever since, he has never been able to crawl back to the lead after trying to make a move up top. And he has so far been pretty much looking up there with Tyler Warner, with Jaden Gimbel. He has tried to make things work up there with the side draft, but it has not necessarily worked for him whatsoever, so he has pretty much been mired back in the top 10, and this is the lowest he's been all race long. So maybe for Vizzuti, the pit strategy could serve as some sort of a comeback if he wants to gather positions on the track, because you can gain it down pit road, and you can get it on the entrance down pit road as well. So Tyler Murray continues to lead this race. Kyle Benson and Roman Long to follow in the top 3. Everybody so far in this top 3 have not won a race in 2021. And the first driver who has is Brad Herman, currently sitting in the 4th spot. Talked about him on a fuel strategy win at Chicagoland in the 1.5 miler. We went there a couple weeks back. He was a prominent driver along with Jake Royale, but then Jake Royale's absence near the middle of the race set Brad Herman up front, and it went flag to flag, no yellows and no cautions throughout that entire race. And Herman was able to walk away with pure speed over James Holzer to win that event and long run speed. So the 85 does know a thing or two about winning on fuel strategy. As now, speaking of everybody down pit road, we have a large split. Herman, Massey, and Bailey will decide to stay out an extra lap as Tyler Murray and everybody else scrambling for position down pit road. And they'll dive deep on the brakes into their pit stall. See a couple drivers easily behind. That was Pete Bruni and Ricky Rosner, who have already gone 1 lap down. They ended up on pit road right before, along with Andrew Sidney, who is now starting to exit his pit stall. They have been put a couple laps down. But now the race will persist off of pit road. Tyler Murray, easy segue to the front. But remember, he has to also catch up. Pitting himself by himself in the draft probably won't be the biggest factor. How about a position gain here, though, for Roman Long out of pit road 2nd? With Tyler Warner there behind him. Kyle Benson lost a couple of spots down pit road, so he will have to mire himself back to 7th currently. But about 4th is Donald Williams, Jaden Gimbel, and the 9 of Brandon Gillis. They end up all together. I think Longsager is the next driver to follow, but he is not near any of these drivers. So now comes the time for the top 3 who stayed out about an extra lap to head down pit road, including everybody with a 8 in front of their number. Tristan Bailey in the 86, Chris Massey in the 83, and Brad Herman in the 85. Herman will come out first. Here comes Massey out 2nd. And here comes Bailey out to 3rd. This will be a big factor, though. We didn't really see it because of that contact and the caution there to follow, as they were already exiting pit road in the lead. However, staying out and going down pit road, or at least exiting pit road, and having help with you is such a crucial part of these super speedway races, especially on field strategy, because if you're all by yourself for the most part, and if you exit pit road all by your lonesome with no help to follow, you'll pretty much be in the worst position possible. And that is exactly what's happening to Tyler Murray right now, because you can just see how much time everybody behind them in a 3-car train can gain on just one. We'll see if they try to get around Murray, but I'm not sure whether they will. Here's Roman Long maybe peeking, and the air bubble will shut him out and close the door. So good thing for Tyler Murray. It won't necessarily be too large of a run, and now they will be in the top 4. And for now, they're actually not too far behind your top 3 race leaders, so the strategy to stay out and make the overcut did work for Chris Massey, Herman, and Bailey. So they are out by just a couple of seconds over the drivers in 4th on back. So although they did pit a little bit later, it seemed to have worked in terms of the distance. And we haven't really mentioned it all too much about how that will work and how the distance, how the super speedway package and the changes with them will affect the way drivers exit pit road and the time they can gain going back out on the track. And so far, it is putting up to the top 3's favor, as they will cross the line for lap number 69. Already way past our halfway mark here to lap number 94, but we are still at another crossroads here. And speaking of which, if they go, I believe they should pit about one more time, and that should be around the lap 80 to 89 range, so around that entire segment. They should maybe have to pit at least once. We saw drivers go about 25 to 28 laps on a stint. However, we'll probably see whether it extends it even further. Here's a move, though. As Murray has caught up to the drivers in the top 3, help from Roman Long and Warner will push him directly and slingshot him to the race lead into turn 3 and 4. So again, Tyler Murray switches back to the front. Roman Long will maybe look up to 2nd. Not enough speed for Chris Massey, as everybody else now in the top 4. They have now spread themselves amongst, and now it seems as though we have Chris Massey down pit road. I'm not sure whether Chris Massey had an issue there, but he is all by himself. And this is not good news for the driver of the 83 machine, who had been doing so well since. And will now be all down pit road. I'm not sure whether he might have miscalculated the judgment on the fuel measurements. Of course, drivers have the ability to play with that, and whether they get tires or repairs down pit road. And maybe a miscalculation there for the 83 of Massey, so that could be highly detrimental for him to the end of this race. As we are now 24 laps out to lap 94 on the checkered flag, and this will make it very, very tight, because if you look at how long it's been since they pit, it's been about 5 laps since everybody here within about the top 6 went down pit road. 4 to 5 laps rather, in sort of a range there. But from now on out, it's about 24 to 25 laps to the end of this event. And we've seen drivers make those lengthy stints all by themselves, and they all went down pit road within that segue of time. So now the question really raised is, do they elect to save and stay out and maybe try to go the distance here, or do they end up going down pit road in the final 10 laps of this race to ensure they can make it to the end? And we may find ourselves in another Daytona situation. And if you want to look at Daytona and the execution of strategy, you'll probably have to look at that 33 of Tyler Warner, who started all the way back in 12th position out of the 20 cars in the latter half of the field. Or rather, that's Kyle Benson, who started 12th. But even further back, the 33 of Warner, 14th on the track when we dropped the green flag here at Talladega. And ever since, he's fallen back as far as 16th, and now he is up to the top 3. So it has been dividends paid off for the 33 of Warner in the latter stage of this race. And should the strategy fall in his hands, he could take another super speedway victory and be the king of them all, go undefeated there after winning at Daytona. And that could easily set him apart from Kyle Benson and take back the points lead, which we have a 7-point spread between them both. So it is very tense between the two. Consistent finishes versus a win. It could be consistent finishes versus 2 wins should we get to the end of this one. But right now, that's still not a topic of conversation we can reach to just yet, because we are still far from over. There is Chris Massey, who unfortunately went down pit road, and he's going to go a lap down as a result. And unfortunate for him, who had been working well all race long, had been pretty much banding together with a lot of drivers in this field to make moves on the track. And now his race could be set in stone. But I think the good thing for him is that, considering the amount of cars we do have under the lead lap, Massey could be in a position to where, should the caution come out, he'll get the lucky dog and he'll cycle back around to the race leader and be right on pace with them and be back on the lead lap. We currently only have 2 drivers that are still running on the racetrack that are not in the garage that are at least 1 lap down or more. And that includes Chris Massey, who just got put on that list, and then Andrew Sidney, who got stuck in the mire in the midst of the pack, and he is 2 laps down on the track. So at least the good news for Massey is that he won't have to fight for position, and he can pretty much stay in this draft conceivably. And if a yellow comes out, which you probably hope for, that would be good for him. Actually, yeah, both of them are actually in the midst of the draft. Andrew Sidney was near the rear, and Chris Massey is currently sitting 4th in this long line of cars to split the top 4 from everybody 5th on back. Now, we've had 3 drivers exit this race. It was Austin Reedy, pole sitter, Cole Martin in the 89, and Michael E. York, who have all exited this race early. And they will find out the final drivers in this field. Let's take a look a little bit further back. Here's another pack about 7th on back. And these are the drivers theoretically behind the main pack. This is Donald Williams in the 96, Jaden Gimbel in the 12, and Brandon Gillis in the 12, or in the 9 machine. They also were all in different positions in this race, and they also took a different strategy, but the distance really maximized at that point, and they weren't able to catch up to the main pack, although they went out of pit road around the same time. I don't think the distance to gather themselves up was as quick as everybody up front. So it has not been well for these 3. They're pretty much just riding around, hoping for a yellow flag to bunch them up with the rest of the guys up top. But it has not been the case, so this 3-car train will continue on, and then you have to look a little bit further back to find a tandem between Craig Lonsar in the 13, and the 75 of Nicholas Vizzuti. Vizzuti was a winner. We talked about it. New Hampshire winner last week. His first win of the season came there at a short track. Was doing fairly well. Started in second, had pushed himself to the front of the field, but then a shuffle to set him back to 10th did not help him whatsoever. And from then, it's been practically downhill in the final home stretch of this race, as he is now stuck in that 11th spot right behind Lansager and pretty much nowhere to go, as there are still only these two cars. The only driver in another tandem here is Christopher Bishop along with Cody Ivey. They're also stuck in together. And I believe Ricky Rosner and Pete Bruni are also shuffled in another tandem further back, a couple of seconds behind this field. And almost about a full lap, as they might get lapped in the midst of the next 5 laps or so, as you see them up the road just a little bit. Those two little specks up the road. Now coming off turn 2 to the back straightaway. They are the next cars at mercy of being put 1 lap down. The good news here, though, I think Chris Massey, even if they go 1 lap down, Massey's in this pack here with Benson and the leaders. So should he stay to the bottom, should he stay where he is and regret making any other moves, he should be back to the lucky dog position, which will make positive efforts for him if we get a yellow throne. And now they're going side by side. That'll slow them dramatically here. And maybe they also want to find themselves in this trap, keep themselves here as well. And we may have a battle within a battle here. A battle for the lead and maybe a battle for the lucky dog spot in the final 17 laps of this race. And currently Tyler Murray continues to lead this field over Roman Long, Tyler Warner, Kyle Benson, and Brad Herman, which will round out your top 5. So it is coming down to the wire here at Talladega Superspeedway. Remember, we may come tight on fuel strategy, and we may see the leaders head down pit road one last time before we drop the checkered flag and move on to the rest of this 4-wide racing season. There is the lap cars up top of Bruni and Rosner. They'll make way, and Massey will take over position. Massey will put himself in the lucky dog spot. Now it's all about whether Bruni and Rosner can maybe keep up with the drivers here in this pack. Maybe they can follow through in the draft and stay there behind, keep themselves in a tight, safe place, as they are all single file. And if this were the recent build, or if we didn't have this recent build, we'd probably be side by side in major packs for the lead. And that has been the complete opposite, as it's been a single file train. And Tyler Murray at the mercy, possibly capturing his first win in 2021. Maybe a shuffle there for third. Boy, Warner put himself in a dangerous position. Almost got advantage taken of by the 4 of Benson, as he maybe dug his nose in his Ford Mustang a little much, as Warner had set up the track, maybe looking for a move to the outside. And that was definitely not enough. Right along with the 33 of Warner as we head back to turn 1, 15 laps to go. And you rode along with him as you got a sense of just how tough it is to get those runs here on the super speedways. 14 laps to go from Talladega Superspeedway. Top 4 all bunched in, split by the lap car of Chris Massey, followed by Herman, Bailey, and then the lap car of Andrew Sidney. And then Rosner and Bruni, 2 other lap cars behind them. But it may be the battle up here. And now our biggest concern is whether everybody will have to go down pit road at least once more before this race is said and done, because now there are 16 laps on their stint with 14 laps to go, now coming to 13 to go. Question is, do you try to pit maybe early? Do you try to overcut? Or do you try to save all the way to the end? And this might even be the worst situation here for Murray, because at the head of this field, in any stretch of super speedway racing, if you're at the head of the field all by yourself up top of everyone else, in front of everyone else, you're wasting the most fuel. You're in that clean air, and that is some sort of a benefit up front. However, you're full throttle. You're not in the draft, so you don't have a chance to lay off the throttle even a quarter to save that fuel. So Murray is practically full throttle all the way around the racetrack, and in turn, he is wasting the most fuel. Roman Long, Warner, and the drivers even in the draft, even if they're not even on the lead lap, they have the ability to save, but they will all go down pit road, so no splits here. Murray, Warner, Long, Benson, Bruni, and Rosner down pit road, and this is a split once again because Tristan Bailey and Brad Herman, the drivers who elected to stay out one more lap with Chris Massey before he went a lap down, they will stretch it a little bit further. Now, will they stretch it all the way, or will they stretch it just an extra lap? We'll have to try and find out once they actually get down pit road. Here is the battle off of it, though, from the main leaders. Murray will step out first. Tyler Warner will be right behind. Kyle Benson to follow suit in third, with Roman Long behind them. Brandon Gillis is stuck down pit road as a result. Christopher Bishop, he's now staying out as well. So this may become a different factor here within the top 10. Bailey and Herman will stay out an extra lap. 11 laps to go from Talladega. Now we are coming to the final stretches of this race. I don't believe Jaden Gimbel is also pitted. I think now, not going to look this time by. Almost looked to the apron there for just a tad off turn 4. He's not going to make it work. Donald Williams is going to be hard on the brakes, so now into the entrance to pit road. So he will end up lengthening his stint this time by. How about Vizzuti and Lonsarger? The distance is large, but it's not necessarily over for these guys if they're able to stretch it, because they are considered ahead of the rest of the guys who did pit from the race lead, which includes these top 4 as they now come off of the tri-oval. Maybe the distance is too small, and maybe these guys up front with the larger pack will inevitably get by. However, this could be the saving grace for those drivers who are electing to stay out, because maybe they had a rough race from now, and maybe they don't have a race race from here on out. Maybe they're able to muster what they can, gain some positions from this strategy. And for right now, Brad Herman is still electing to stay out with Tristan Bailey, along with the help of Chris Massey. I think this is their biggest positive note, is that although Massey is 1 lap down, he's still in the midst of this draft, and he is good on fuel. So he can stay up front, waste all the fuel he can, because inevitably he'll still make it to the end of the final 10 laps of this race. But it'll be the bigger question for Herman and Bailey as to whether they can also make it, or whether they're going to try and save. Maybe stretch out the fuel a little bit more. And it all comes down as to whether they will pit. They are practically slower a little bit, and they won't look to pit this time by. They'll stay out an extra time. So in the final 10 laps of this race, we may have a pure fuel strategy race on tap. There's Vizzuti and Lonsarger currently sitting 4th and 5th. There's Tyler Murray leading this large group of cars, followed by Christopher Bishop. And this may be one of the largest ways to end this race. Do Herman and Bailey run out of fuel? Do we see a pass here for net P1? Do they have enough trust that they can even get there to the end, or catch up all that distance from everybody who did stay out? Remember, they tried cutting it a little bit earlier. I think maybe what Herman, Bailey, Gimbel, Vizzuti, Lonsarger in the top 5 are trying to do is that they're trying to lengthen it. Remember, when we had that last pit stop in the midst of the field on the green flag run, we saw them pit around lap 24 to 25, and we saw Herman, Bailey, and Massey pit maybe just a lap or 2 later. So although they're on a 21 lap stint, we saw Murray and the rest of the guys pit a little bit earlier, maybe trying to cut it more in half. And knowing that they can still make it to the end of this race, hoping that they cycle back. Whereas Herman and Bailey and the other guys in the top 5, they may try to stretch it a little more, pit, use the distance to their advantage, and stay in front. However, they are only a 3-car pack. As for Murray and the rest of the guys, they're about 5 cars. So the strength in numbers will help these guys around 6 on back to gain that position all the way and cycle back to the race lead inevitably here. As the only other guys behind Bailey and Herman are Gimbel, who's all by himself, and Vizzuti and Lonssager, who are currently in a tandem, but they've been in a tandem ever since we had our last yellow. Seven laps to go here from the Talladega Superspeedway. Herman, who has won on a fuel strategy prior at Chicagoland, a 1.5 miler, has not won a race on any other track since in 2021. And this may be the potential for him to do so. And if Bailey can maybe try to take a move. Top three have not won a race this season. So we could be in the stretch for a first-time winner once again in the 4Wide Racing Cup Series. We've only had one repeat winner, and that was James Holzer, who did it at Texas, and then did it a little bit later, just a couple weeks after as well. Six laps to go. Gap is about 2 seconds between the top two and third place. About 12 seconds between the leader and sixth place Tyler Murray. And they will continue on their draft as you're going to ride along board with Tyler Murray in the 8 machine, with Tyler Werner right behind him. And we'll see now, lap number 23 on a stint. They will not go in. They will stay out for an extra lap. 5 laps to go. And Herman still edging for a checkered flag in sight for the second time in 2021. And Bailey looking for his first. Massey 1 lap down, hoping for a yellow flag to catch back up to the lap leaders. But the time maybe starting to run out. And the dust will probably settle here. We'll try to see exactly what happens. There are currently 24 laps on the stint. The other drivers in the top 5 are about 25 laps. And none of them have elected to stay in or take in fuel for service. Actually, here's Jaden Gimbel. He'll be the next car down pit road. So he'll lengthen it to 25 laps on his stint. Vizzuti and Lonssager will be sure to stay out here. And Jaden Gimbel all by himself will be down pit road. But I will say the gap has decreased between Tyler Murray and these guys versus Vizzuti and Lonssager. You saw it barely there at the top of the screen. You see Vizzuti and Lonssager by themselves in a tandem. So this pack of 4 is certainly gaining all that ground back. But it's a relative of the amount of time they're gaining back versus the amount of time left in this race. As Herman and Bailey, you see Bailey laying off the gas a little bit. He's lost the draft. And they'll stay out, catching 3 laps to go from Talladega. Will Herman and Bailey stretch it all the way, or will Murray and the rest of the guys behind take advantage back? It has not been easy for Herman and Bailey, and they may have to save fuel now, even in the midst of they're in the draft. And they're probably not 100% on the throttle at this point, since they're trying to save as much fuel as they can. You're still riding along board with Herman as he has that draft to help with Massey to follow. There's Donald Williams, who may go another lap down here as a result, or may go at least 1 lap down here from the leaders. He's currently 12th on the board at this point, with Cody Ivey leading the cars on 1 lap down, and in that position for the lucky dog. Now, here is Tyler Murray, has stepped in a third, and it seems as though Lonssager and Vizzuti have gone down pit road, so their stretch of the fuel is over, and now it is down to these two at the stripe. 2 laps to go. 2 left here from Talladega. And about 5.2 miles left. This is the final opportunity. As now gap is starting to decrease. 5.6 seconds remain between Murray and Herman as they step off of turn 4. The two Chevrolet Camaros at the top of the field will take the white flag and 2.66 more miles around the Talladega Superspeedway. One more time around for Herman. Can Murray and the rest of the guys behind start to catch up? Here they are at the exit of the tri-oval. They may have enough time to slip by, but it all depends on whether they can catch up with the 4-car draft. As Herman and the rest have 3 off of turn 2 for the final time. You see them there in the background. But will they have enough distance? Final time to 3 and 4. Gap at about 3.7 seconds, but they will head off of turn 4. Brad Herman in the 85 machine will get his second win in 2021. After one at Chicagoland at a fuel strategy race, he'll win another fuel strategy one at Talladega. Brad Herman takes a checkered flag from Alabama. Tristan Bailey will come home second after riding with Herman in the final 20 laps of that race. Tyler Murray, Tyler Warner, Kyle Benson, and Roman Long, not enough time, as they'll have to settle for third on back. And Brad Herman on fumes will win for the second time this season at a super speedway. And his first win came at Chicagoland with long run speed and nailing the pit strategy to the end, overcutting the rest of the field. And now in a nail biter here at Talladega, Brad Herman finally gets it done. Not sure whether he has enough fuel to even do burnouts on the front straightaway, but we'll just have to see, as Bailey had given his celebratory remarks there to the 85. You see him there side by side, both of them able to make it stick. And although Chris Massey had been put 1 lap down, he was a crucial part in the way this race ended. As they'll roll side by side, Herman will be down, trying to make space, and he'll burn it down in front of the virtual fans with the fuel that he has left. 2-time winner this season, and the only driver to capture more than 1 win in this series. And he joins James Holzer in the 88. So a big win by Brad Herman at the end here from Talladega to get it done at the end of 94 laps. Murray, not enough time to get there to the end. As we'll take a look at your full field rundown and everybody in this field and where they finish. Brad Herman with the second checkered flag of the season comes here at Talladega. Field strategy comes to benefit. Tristan Bailey will ride along behind him in second, as he was with him in the draft for the final 15 laps of that race. Tyler Murray, who had gone down pit road along with Tyler Warner, Kyle Benson, and Roman Long. They did not have enough time to catch up. Murray third, Warner fourth, Kyle Benson another solid finish to top 5, and Roman Long will finish in the top 6. Brandon Gillis on an I machine way back in the field, but still a top 10 regardless, will finish 7th at the line. Jaden Gimbel, 12 machine, will be in the 8th position with Craig Lonsarger behind him and Nicholas Vizzuti to round out the top 10. Remember, they two pitted within the final 5 laps. Chris Massey, 1 lap down, helped the leaders to victory, and he will line up just outside of the top 10 in 11th. Christopher Bishop, also 1 lap down in 12th. Cody Ivey, 13th at the start-finish line with Pete Bruni and Ricky Rosner to line up the top 15. All of these drivers were fighting for the lucky dog position, which never came to fruition because we stayed green all the way to the end. Donald Williams comes home in 16th, 2 laps down. Andrew Sidney also 2 laps down in 17th. Austin Reedy, your pole sitter, leaves early in the middle of the race. He'll finish 18th. Cole Martin will be 19th, and Michael E. York struggles in the early section of the race. They end up 19th and 20th to cap off the rest of this field. Well, it'll be our time to take a moment to talk with the driver of the 85 and the inevitable winner here at Talladega, Brad Herman rather, in the 85. He gets the win here from Talladega. We'll talk with Tyler Murray just a little bit later, who came up just short of the start-finish line. We'll try to see whether we can get the driver of that 85 in here, or whether we can try to get him for discussion here in the chat. I'm not sure whether we can do so at the moment. But for now, we'll try to get in the driver who finishes third at the start-finish line, and it is the number 8 of Tyler Murray, just short after leading 35 laps, and did not have enough time to get to the checkered flag in enough laps. And we'll bring Tyler Murray in from the last step of the podium. And Tyler, you guys had made that move in the final segment to split this strategy in, because you guys did have to pit ultimately one more time. And then by the end of that 4-car train, it was all about catching up. Did you need a little bit more time there, more track? How much was that for you and your pack as you guys were trying to catch up to the 2 drivers who had stayed out?
Well, I mean, we knew when we made that second to last pit stop, we were crunching numbers for about 5 laps, and we knew we weren't gonna make it on fuel. So what we had to do is we knew we were gonna pit, and somebody in the chat, I think it was Roman, just kind of yelled out a random number, chose 82, and that's just kind of what we went with. Try to split it in half, and you know, I did not think they were gonna make it. We were catching them 5-6 seconds a lap, and they were obviously saving like crazy, and they saved a lot better than I thought they could, especially with their team leader out there in front of them lap down. But great strategy on their part. Hats off to them for being able to pull that off, and really impressed with that. Wish it wouldn't have come down to fuel mileage, but part of the game.
Well, and also in part of this fuel strategy, you guys also had to deal with the new super speedway package that was implemented to these cup cars just yesterday from the new iRacing 2021 Season 2 build. And this racing was dramatically different from what we saw at Daytona, when we saw large packs 2x2 almost every row deep, to tonight where a lot of the racing happened single file. A lot of the moves were mostly as a result of the side draft. How was that for you to get used to? Because I know for pretty much everybody in the iRacing service, super speeder racing in these cars has changed on one end to the other. So now it's kind of a force of just adapting to these changes. How easy was that for you in tonight's race? I know you led a good amount, so how much was that to adapt over the course of tonight's race?
Yeah, the package definitely messed me up a little bit there at the beginning, and super speedway racing in the sim used to be absolute brute strength, just put the car wherever you can put the car and just pray. And now tonight it was more like a finesse type game. You had to really set people up in order to get in front of them. Like that last yellow flag restart, I think I restarted in second and immediately dropped down to fourth, picked one guy off, and it was pretty much, I kind of like juked, like I was going to try to look outside for a couple laps in a row to make them think I was going to do it, and then I went up there, and as soon as I could get them to open up that bottom, I dove back down low, and luckily for most of that, I had Vizzuti behind me, who kind of saw what I was doing to get through the couple guys that were in front of us and get back up to the lead. But yeah, it's just, I liked the old package. I definitely think I liked the old package significantly more than I liked what was going on tonight. I wish it was a lot more racing. I wish we were 4 wide, 3 wide, a lot more, It just, you couldn't suck up to the back anybody, and I feel like that hurt us a lot through the race, is just trying to get hooked up and trying to go fast. It was just not a lot going on there.
Well, you certainly put the most of it. 35 laps led surely is a statement to the rest of the field, and especially after winning that race last night in the Truck Series, and certainly another decent performance here at Talladega, as you guys will now head to Iowa for the second short track race of the 2021 season. Before we send you off from Dega here, Tyler, is there anyone you'd just like to thank, any teams, sponsors, or anybody else that makes it happen for you here on this sim and in this series?
I just want to first off start off by thanking my teammates at Big Fast Racing. With Werner was up there with us, Roman was up there, Kyle Benson, Austin Reedy had to leave to go to work, but he was running with us for the majority of the race. And then I just want to take a chance to thank everybody who comes out each and every week to race in the 4 Wide Racing League. It's a pretty decent community. A lot of us aren't too fast, but we're all pretty equal in skill, and it's just a lot of fun each and every week, and couldn't do it without all the guys in there. Thank you to all the sponsors that come out and sponsor races for us, and thank you to you, Kenneth, for taking time out of your night each Wednesday to come out here and broadcast. I'm happy I finally got to sit down and talk with you.
Well, it certainly must feel good, a top 3 interview, and hopefully that'll be a result of a lot more in 2021. We congratulate you on your podium finish here from Talladega. Lots of super speedway speed, And we hope to see you over at Iowa and the rest of this season as you guys move forward. But congratulations on your finish from Talladega.
Absolutely. We'll see you here in a couple weeks. I'm not going to get a podium again at Iowa, but we'll get one here soon.
That's Tyler Murray, third place finisher. Just not enough time to get to the front drivers at the checkered flag. However, definitely a powering performance for that 8 machine who had led a good portion of this race. And it was a clear dominant driver no matter what the case was. We'll look to second place. And we'll find the 86 of Tristan Bailey, who was one of the people to help Brad Herman to win this race at the end and came home to finish in second after starting all the way in the third position. At least not too much of a gain there, but also staying within the top 3. And we'll bring the driver of the 86 in, Tristan Bailey, down pit road. And this was ultimately a call between you and Brad Herman. I think Chris Massey also had in it too, because you guys were in a pit stop prior. You all 3 went down pit road. Then Massey ended up going a lap down, and it was all to you two. What was the biggest deciding factor that gave you guys the idea of, let's stay out, let's try to stretch it as far as we can, and hopefully we can have enough time to catch up to the checker flag, which was what you guys did?
Well, if you've seen the race all night, nobody could use the high side past anybody with this new aero package they added to the game, which makes simulator, which makes no sense. But we just stayed out an extra lap and we looked at it and seen. I mean, it's gonna be close, so we figured we'd try it. So we just kept on saving, and Chris ended up getting a black flag coming out of pit road, and that's what caused him to go a lot down. But then we used him as pretty much a pull around car, so we could save extra fuel.
Well, you both were able to do just that, and a second place finish here from Talladega. We talked a little bit earlier with Tyler Murray about his reaction to the Super Speedway package, and I'm going to turn the same question over to you. How much was this in order to adapt to? Because at Daytona, you guys had a wildly different package where the packs are much closer, and you just said it there, not being able to use the high side. How hard was that to adapt to over the course of tonight's event?
It's super hard because, I mean, every time you pull up to somebody, you go to bump them, the car in front of you would just get super loose, which made no sense. And then if you try to, I tried passing Brad come out of 4, I got to his bumper and it just pushed him away from me. I couldn't make any ground after that. So I just think they need to go back and look at that package, honestly, and go back to the old school package.
Well, certainly at the end of it all, you end up with Brad Herman and you finish in this second position. Coming to Iowa, and you stepped into this race 5th in the point standings with a head of steam, a handful of good finishes to your name. What you're going to keep doing throughout the second half of the season as we continue on to the playoffs, and trying to make sure that not only you get more consistent finishes and you get higher in the point standings, but also you can grab your first win in this season and pretty much be on a good head of steam moving forward?
Yeah, just try to finish good, keep up in points. Best you can do.
All right, Tristan, well, certainly a fantastic finish here from Talladega all the way to the very end. Before we send you off here to head to Iowa next week, is there anybody you'd just like to thank, any teams, sponsors, or anyone else that makes it happen for you?
Yeah, Sandwichman Racing, they gave us a sponsor for all of us to have and use, and Shoney's as well. I think Tough Love Rings is also a sponsor, and just thanks to Brad and Chris for bringing me in.
All right, Tristan, well, we certainly appreciate the time, and congratulations on your second place finish here tonight from Talladega. We look forward to seeing what we can do in the land of corn when we go to Iowa next week.
All right, man. Thank you.
And that is Tristan Bailey, driver of the 86 machine, and ends up second at the start-finish line, but right behind the fellow driver with an 8 also in his number as well, the 85 of Brad Herman, who ends up as your winner and takes his second checkered flag in 2021. Well, Brad, I think the name of the game is fuel strategy when it comes down to your wins. Chicagoland ended up with long run speed and fuel strategy and nailing it the right way to take the checkered flag away, and you do the same, stretching it all the way to the end. Walk us through that idea, walk us through this execution as you guys were winding the laps down.
Yeah, we just got pretty lucky there where the cautions fell and realizing what we had to get done, and the Shoney's Chevy was bad fast to saving fuel tonight. Just got real lucky with our teammate having a little bit of trouble there and was able to slid in between us and just kind of pull us around and help us save that extra bit of fuel. Just got to give a hats off to Bronco and everybody that helped us tonight with the win.
And at the end here, distance became such a big factor in how this race played out, because not only was the new super speedway package introduced, it was also the run of you guys pitting later in some cases. In the second to last pit stop, you guys ended up, or at least the last pit stop for you guys ended up staying out an extra lap, using that distance between yourself, Tristan Bailey, and Chris Massey there to the end. How crucial was that help? How crucial was that distance to get you here in order to set yourself up for what was that final decision in the final 15 laps?
No, I mean that one extra lap was pretty much the difference maker there. We were super close on fuel, and definitely Chris pulling us around was the real factor of us being able to save that fuel and make that strategy work.
Well, Brad, your second win comes here in 2021, and certainly an exciting one, nail-biting one all the way to the finish, as Murray and the gang were trying to catch up behind. But before we send you off to Iowa next week, is there anyone you'd just like to thank, any teams, sponsors, or anyone that makes it happen for you here on the sim and on the series as well?
Like I said, I just got to thank Bronco as a team. We're trying to do our best out here. I got to thank our sponsors, Sandwich Man Racing, Sports Memorabilia. Go check them out on Shopify and Facebook. And I also got to thank Shoney's for being a sponsor of the team and helping how they do.
We're about another win to your resume in 2021. You tied James Holzer with the only other driver with 2 wins. So, of course, that must feel good going to Iowa. We congratulate you on your win here from the biggest, baddest track of them all. And we wish you luck now moving forward to the rest of the season as we move to Iowa.
Thanks, Ken.
And that's Brad Herman, the winner tonight of Bronco Motorsports. All came in together. Unfortunately, Chris Massey, who had gone a lap down, was not able to be a part of the post-race ceremonies within the top 3, but he certainly was a deciding factor into how this race played out. Well, certainly we had an exciting race all the way from lap 1 to lap 94. We want to apologize again for those technical difficulties to open the race, and we could have brought the first 20 or so laps to you, where we had practically our first yellows of the evening and some of our first drivers to be taken out of this race. But we did manage to get all the way to the end, so that was the most important part, and we found out a winner. Brad Herman takes a checkered flag, and as I mentioned, ties James Holzer for the only other driver with the most wins in 2021. And now we look forward to the second short track of this season and the Iowa Speedway, and one of the first times we see the Cup cars on that track. Coverage will begin at about 9:10 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday. It'll be next Wednesday, and it'll be March 17th, and we'll finally find out on St. Patrick's Day who takes a short track win in the land of corn. We'll have it all right here, and the rest of the 2021 season right here on MaxSpeedTV. So for everyone that makes it happen in this 4-wide racing series, for all the officials that make it happen each and every week, for Tyler Murray, Austin Reedy, Craig Launsager, Matt Roberts, Nicholas Vizzuti, and James Holzer, everybody a part of the Race Council. And for all of us at MaxSpeedTV, my name is Kenneth Bueno, saying good night from the Talladega Super Speedway. We move to Iowa next week to continue 2021.